The viral Dubai chocolate bar. We're doing it Louisiana style. We're gonna put this thing inside of a king cake. Meet me by the parade, baby. It's going down. Alright, now let's go ahead and make the dough. This one's gonna be a little bit different than the ones I've shown you before. Life is all about variation, right? We got 3/4 of a cup of whole milk, warmed up. You want it at about 110 degrees. We're gonna be adding yeast to this. So if it's really hot, it'll kill off that yeast. 110 is that sweet spot, should be slightly warm. Add in 1 package of instant yeast, that's 2 1/4 tablespoons. I'm gonna go ahead and add in 1/4 of a cup of honey. Now go ahead and whisk it up to make sure it gets combined. The yeast is gonna start feeding on the sugar and the honey. You ought to see this get all nice and frothy. So we're gonna give it about 10 minutes. So here we go, the yeast is set. You can see it all foamy on top. Now go ahead and crack in 4 room temperature eggs. Now go ahead and whisk that up.
Excited.
So now I got the bowl to my stand mixer. Add in 4 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour and 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. Go ahead and hook that up with the paddle attachment. And then you want to slowly start to mix in that egg mixture. Now once that's nice and combined, I've got 10 tablespoons of softened unsalted butter. You want to add this in 1 little chunk at a time. Let each one incorporate before adding the next. Once you got the butter added in, go ahead and let that mix for about a minute until it's well combined. It's going to seem a little bit sticky and tacky, but that's what we want. Now go ahead and take me a bowl. You want to grease it up. We can take that dough. You want to just fold it right into that greased bowl. Go ahead and cover this and put this in the refrigerator. Now after 30 minutes, go ahead and grab the dough, pull it up, and fold it onto the center until you made it all the way around the bowl. We're going to do that a total of 4 times, letting it rest 30 minutes in between. Now that we've done that final fold, we're going to go ahead and let this refrigerate overnight. I got 1 cup of lightly packed light brown sugar. You can use dark brown sugar, it's whatever your preference is. 1 whole tablespoon of cinnamon, then about a teaspoon of kosher salt. Go ahead and give this a mix. Now we'll just go ahead and set this to the side. Let's get that dough. Go ahead and lightly flour your surface. So that dough has been resting overnight. You see it's almost double in what it was. We're just going to give this about 7 to 8 kneads, and that's going to help wake that yeast back up. And so now we can start to roll that dough out. We want to roll it into a rectangle. Alright, so I know I'm going to cut this really quick, but that took me about a good 10 to 15 minutes to get it like this. Going about a 1/4 inch thick. I take a fork and I just want to poke holes all over it. So now I'm going to go ahead and take some heavy cream and just put a light coating all over. Now I'm going to take some melted butter and do the same thing. Alright, now go ahead and take that cinnamon mixture and you want to coat this whole thing in it. And then you could just go ahead and pat it in. We're going to roll it up twice, 1 from each end going towards the middle. Now go ahead and flip it over seam side down. I'm going to transfer it to a lined sheet pan. Go ahead and just make it into a U shape in every 1 1/2 inch and make a tiny little slit on the side. I'll just tie these ends together. Go ahead and comment if you can recognize that iconic shape. We'll set this on the side and let this proof for about 1 hour. Alright, the cake is good and proofed up. We'll make one little note. You see on this edge how it got big? I think if we'd have trimmed it square and got some of those thick pieces off the edge, we'd have had a lot more consistent cake. But look, I'm not selling these. We eating them, so it don't really matter to me. Just maybe a little note for next time. Take this and bake it at 350. We're looking at around 30 to 35 minutes. Now when it looks like that, We'll go ahead and take it out. Now whenever that cake is still warm, you want to lightly brush it with a little bit of cream, and that's going to help that crust from getting really hard. We'll put this aside. We're going to let it cool down completely before we try to fill it or ice it. Now we're going to go ahead and make that awesome pistachio filling that goes inside of that Dubai chocolate bar. Probably going to mess this up. Kataifi, pretty much strings of phyllo dough. I'm going to take half of this bag, I'm going to chop it up real fine, then I'm going to fry that down in some butter till it's nice and crispy. Note on this, I cut this up with a knife. If I had to do it again, I would put this into a large gallon bag and just kind of break it up because they kind of flew everywhere. But that's what you're looking for. For a large saute pan, I'm going to melt a half a stick of butter. You want to fry this up until it's golden brown and crispy. And as you're cooking this, you don't want to go too far. You want to keep it moving so you don't burn it. And you can see it's starting to toast up a little, just a little bit more. And there we go. I'm going to transfer it to a sheet pan so it can cool. And this makes like the most wonderful aroma you ever smell. So this is what's going to give that filling, that crispiness. Now we're going to move on to the pistachio cream. We're going to start out, I'm going to make a white chocolate ganache, 3/4 of a cup of white chocolate, a half a cup of heavy cream. Go ahead and put that on a really low heat until it's melted. Now get us a mixing bowl. I've got 2 jars of pistachio butter. Most of this stuff I got off of Amazon, so I'm going to go ahead and link it on my Amazon page if you're looking to make this. Add in 1 teaspoon of tahini. So that's ground up sesame seeds. You can find that with all the nut butters in the grocery store. So I added a few more white chocolate chips to this. So I got about a cup in total. Go ahead and add in that white chocolate ganache. Now we'll go ahead and fold in those Crispies. Now to finish it up, you know we're gonna need that nice satiny chocolate glaze to go right over the top. 1 cup of milk chocolate chips, half a cup of heavy cream, half a cup of light corn syrup, teaspoon of vanilla. Put that on medium to low heat just until it melts, then whisk it till it's smooth. Alright, I went ahead and I put that king cake on the wire rack and we let it cool. Now I'm going to go ahead and flip it over. Now my first intention with this filling was to pipe it in, but it's a little bit too thick for that. So we're going to go ahead and just use a spoon it in that crease that we made. And now you can go ahead and take that baby, go ahead and hide it in the king cake. I'm going to flip it back onto our serving platter. I'll just drizzle it with that chocolate glaze. I'll go ahead and hit it with your purple, green, and gold. Choo. Oh yeah, baby. All that indulgence from that Dubai chocolate bar, twisted up nice and southern style inside a king cake. Oh yeah. Now look, you're gonna be the king of the carnival with this one. Go ahead and hit that follow button. I'll have the recipe posted right on my website.